Hi everybody, in the previous lecture we saw how to create date objects and there are four different output options. So let's also see how we can create date objects using a specific format. Now there are four different formats industry-wide that we use. One is the ISO date, which is nothing but of the format YYYY MMDD. So this is the ISO 8601 international standard for representation of dates and times, and it's also the preferred JavaScript date format. So let's say variable d is equals to new date, and let's put in the date as 2016 hyphen, let's do the month which is 03, let's do the date which is, let's say, 25. So that's March of 25th 2016. Let's try to do the console log and just put in the D. It will not work directly, so let's do a .to string because we're using JS bin. Let's close the output, let's go to the console, let's run it, and the answer would be Thursday, March 24th. As you see, I gave in a 25th, but it gave me Thursday, March 24th as an output. So this date actually is relative to your time zone. So depending on your time zone, the result may vary. It might give you March of 24th or March of 25th. Now, what if we do not give anything in the date field, which means let's say we just give the March? What do you expect? It might be March to March as a date of 2016, but again the same problem, that depending on your time zone the date might be February 29th or 28th depending on the leap year, because this year it was 29, so it might be February 29 or March of 1st. And again the same way, you can ignore the month part of it and just do the year. It will still give you an output. Let's clear the console, run it again, and it'll give you December 31st 2015. Again, this depends and varies on the time zone. You might end up getting a January 1 2016, or you might end up getting December 31st 2015. Now you can also write this ISO format including the hours, minutes, seconds, like in this format. Let me give you an example. So we can have something like this where we give the date, which is, let's copy this date, and let's do a separator which is T. T stands for UTC. UTC is nothing but the Universal Time Coordinated. It is the same as GMT, which is Greenwich Mean Time. So T, and then you give the hours in the minutes. So 12 hours and 30 minutes and let's say 44 seconds. And let's clear this console and run. So it will give you March 25th, 12 hours becomes 8:30, and EDT. The EDT is nothing but Eastern Daylight Saving Time, and it's 0400 because we are into daylight saving. Otherwise, if you just do a normal EST, it will give you 0500. I know, very confusing. So I usually avoid using this format. It's better to use MMDDYY. It's my favorite. It's called the JavaScript short dates, which is of the format MM, which we already have seen, MMDDYYY. So let's very easily copy the same thing again and let's put it into our short format, which is MMDDYY. So let's use the same date, which is 03. MMDD is 25th and the year is this. And let's clear, run, and the answer should be Friday, March 25th 2016. And again it's EDT because it's the daylight saving of the browser. You can also specify this in the MMDD or DDMMYY. Let's try to do that. So let's say this becomes a 25 and this becomes a 03. Let's try to run this, clear, run, and it will give you invalid date. So make sure you always use MMDDYY. Okay, so reverting this back. Now there is another format and it's called as the long date formats, long dates. So what it means is you usually end up writing something like this, which is March 25th 2016. Let's copy this and let's create a date format out of it. Let me just copy this again, it's easier that way. And let's create a new date, which is this March 24. Let's make it 25 and then let's convert to string and then run. Let me just give a separator between these. So console.log ISO dates. This is short date. This is long dates. This would be of the format as this. Let's clear, let's run. So we know what we are dealing with, which is Friday, March 25th, 2016. Now you may have variants of this where you may end up doing something like, instead of March 25th, you may want to do a 25th of March and try to see the result, and the answer will still be the same because it doesn't matter on which or in which order you give the dates, it will still work. You can also change anything here, like let's say we want to change the abbreviation. Instead of MAR, I want to do MARCH. It will still work because it understands the abbreviations too. It also doesn't matter if you give a case sensitive, which means if you give a March as MARCH, it will still work and it will give you the same date. And just in case, if you put in some commas out there, it will still work because it just ignores the commas. Let's try to run this. Let's run, and the answer is this. So that was the long date format. We also have something called as a full date format, which will accept the full JavaScript string, which is something like this. If you want to give a date, it will accept it, it will work. Let me just copy this. Too much of copying because it's pretty much the same. Format, date, long, full format, full date format. Now it is of the format of this, where you can specify the time zone as well, and you can say full date. Let's clear this, let's copy this, and we should be all set. So let's copy this out here, the same date that we've been using. Let's do December 31st, 2016. It might not be a Saturday, so that might be a problem. Let's do March of 25th that we have been using, and let's put it in here. Let's try to clear the console, run it, and the answer is the same. So it works. Now what if you make a mistake, or you have a problem in the format? So JavaScript is smart enough to ignore the errors both in the day name and in the time parenthesis. So if you have some problem in the time that you're giving and the day name, which is Friday or Saturday or Monday, let's say I do this as a Saturday instead of a Friday, and I run, it will still give me a Friday. So it ignores it, and it understands that due to human error you might not know the exact day, and it calculates the day based on the date that has been passed in. So that was all about date formats. Make sure you practice a lot of them to understand how it works. And again, the simplest is the date and the time. You can also use month, seconds, milliseconds in the other format. So play along, and I'll see you in the next class where we cover date methods.